Today's Toy Spot, we are having a look at the NECA Toys Retro Cloth Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 Leatherface. This was a retro cloth figure I was really looking forward to as we get a business suit chainsaw-wielding Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. He also does come with a carving knife and an interchangeable hand. Some nice artwork on the left side of the packaging there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, a very weird departure from the original Chainsaw Massacre movie. It's interesting enough with the inclusion of Chop Top and some of the, again, zanier ends of Chainsaw Massacre 2. It was actually one of my favorite sequels from the Chainsaw Legacy. Spin around the back of the package. Your read-up says, for a decade, Texas Ranger Lefty Unright has sought to avenge the brutal murder of his kin by the cannibalistic Sawyer family, Leatherface, Chop Top, Cook, and Grandpa. With the help of a radio DJ who's also bent on putting an end to the terror, Lefty finds his way to the Sawyer's underground butcher shop, where a battle of epic proportions soon rages, and the line between good and evil gets chopped to bits. She says the line between good and evil gets chopped to bits. To check out more from the folks over at NECA, head over to www.necaonline.com. Again, Spot was very looking forward to getting this figure in hand. I finally found him at my local comic book store. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to get this opened up. And when we come back, we're going to get a better look at Retro Cloth Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 Leatherface. There's more anyway, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. For your list of accessories, of course, let's look at the main one. Leatherface does come with his very large chainsaw with an extremely long chainsaw blade. Some phenomenal detail and paint that NECA has put into this. Always a common sight to see with their retro cloth lines. I like the aging and kind of stripping of paint on the side of the orange chainsaw, revealing some of the yellow underneath. The chainsaw actual blade itself has a rusty, darker metal color to it, with some accents of the darker gray around the actual teeth of the chainsaw. Luckily, this isn't sharp. If it was sharp, you'd probably be seeing my blood all over the place. Again, some of that gunmetal gray making up the motor part of it, as well as the handle itself. So there you have the chainsaw. Moving along to some of the more obscure accessories, he comes also with a carving knife. Now, while the chainsaw itself doesn't have any blood on it, the carving knife, on the other hand, is something completely different. It has what looks to be the traces of sprayed blood all over not only the serrated blade knife itself, but also around the handle end as well. And the handle itself, it looks like all of these are the same idea. They're a little harder to get into the hands, but they do look like they untab from themselves to put them into the hands themselves. So, speaking of hands, Leatherface does come with another hand as well. Not really sure why they gave us two hands, because if you look at like this hand right here, it's not that much different. This one, yes, you could say has a wider opening, but the wider opening could have also been utilized by just having this as the primary hand rather than giving us a hand that has a slightly more closed off, hole. Before we have a look at any of the accessories in hand, let's look at the figure in hand, in my hand. The figure itself utilizes the same retro cloth body, so underneath all of this, not that I'm going to start peeling off layers of clothing, but underneath that you'll see the primary body. It does, though, appear that they've added additional padding to the front to kind of fill him out. As Leatherface is not a very lanky character, he's not the likes of a Chop Top, he's a little more fuller, let's just say fuller. The outfit is slightly different from what it would have been in the first outing. Again, he has the suit on with a very strange looking tie. He also has a rosette also on the collar, and a little handkerchief in his pocket. And then underneath all of that, he would have a shirt with suspenders. He's a very well-dressed cannibalistic maniac, I must say. His face is pretty good. As zany as the movie was, I keep saying zany, but really that's a good way to describe Texas Chainsaw 2. A very zany movie, and also equally so was the mask, like the way the presentation was of Leatherface. His hair very much higher up. The mask, again, a multitude of different faces, different skins, stitched together to give us Leatherface's mask. I like how the ears also are in different locations. One of the ears kind of further down the side of the cheek, and then you have the other ear up there. But some really fun little design aspects here that they've incorporated into the face. The face definitely looks very, very cool. So again, let's put these accessories into his hands. Again, the problem is the hands. The problem is that the hands are completely closed shut. So for things like the chainsaw, for example, the little section on the side can untab, as well as the handle. The handle here can also untab too. And it's not easy, mind you, to separate that out. And from that, you actually might want to change out the hand. Let's take it to the bigger hand, shall we? And just pull that out. There actually is a good example of the actual body underneath. We'll just tab that into place. And then we can resume by sliding the chainsaw bottom in. I wish they had gone a different route, to be honest, than doing it this way. Because, yeah, again, I just broke off a piece of it right there. I don't like how the way that these tab in. I'm gonna have to now glue that into place. But the chainsaw would untab, and then this would slide through. This little section right here tabs into place. Let's just pause the camera for a second. Now that we got the chainsaw into his hand, it's not as complicated as Spot made it out to be. Unfortunately, again, I broke off that little tiny piece though. The idea is that this is supposed to really have slid down his hand. It still doesn't really fix the fact that this opens on the one side here. I wish, as one strike I can make about the figures themselves, that the hands were completely, or at least opened on the one side, not completely closed shut. Then you would even have to have the issues with opening up the handles, having little tiny fragmented pieces like this potentially break off, and then it would be so much easier to get the weapons actually into their hands. That being said, unfortunately, a little one strike I could make about the figures themselves. Again, the same idea with the carving knife. The carving knife also has this little section right here, but to pry all the stuff off all the time, as opposed to just simply having the hand, if the hand simply just opened up right there, I wouldn't actually have had to open this off or untab this to slide it through. I just don't like prying plastic. It just seems so unnecessary. And again, like sliding that into place, yeah, I'm not even gonna make an effort to try to do that. Open hands could have gone a long way, and I don't know why they didn't do that. But at least I can get the chainsaw into his hand. Unfortunately, I'll have to get some glue and fix the handle there. For your posability on Leatherface here, his head is on a ball joint. Hinged shoulders, which also rotate all the way around. A little more obstructed when it gets to of course, the shoulder area because the fabric wants to fight against it. A swivel point also at the top of the bicep area. A bend at the elbow. A rotation in the hand. Waist swivel, very limited because he's got all this extra padding on the front. And then forward and back motion on the legs. A split out on the legs themselves. Top thigh swivel. A bend in the knee, and a hinge in the foot. Great figure. Great figure. I love this figure quite a bit. The only thing I don't like about it is, again, these hands. These hands really needed to be opened and not completely closed shut. I had another also retrocloth figure, and I can't remember which one it was, that gave me the same issue. Again, you can't pry the hands open because they're completely sculpted shut. So a lot of times you have to manipulate weapons to get them into their hands. And in the case of Leatherface here, if the hand was simply just more open like that, you could easily have just put the handle into his hand and call it a day. At any rate, today's toy toy spot. Still a great figure despite the fact I broke the handle on the chainsaw. I'll fix that though. Just a little bit of glue, it'll be A-okay. But today we were having a look at the NECA Toys Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 Leatherface. Stay tuned guys, Spot's going to have more toy spots heading your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time. Just one extra thing we can add on to this video. I did manage to get the carving knife into his hand. Same idea though as the chainsaw. I have to separate the handle out and then fit it through his hand. Again, because the hand is closed shut, I worry about this eventually breaking, but it does manage to fit into his hand. Though again, you just have to do a lot of prying, which is something I feel like you shouldn't have to do with figures. But, as you see here, the carving knife does fit into his hand. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.